Hello and welcome to the latest podcast. I'm your host, JP John Poz. We're here on the two-man power trip. Of course, joining me is the former WCW head writer, the former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, the former WWF head writer, Mr. Vince Russo. Vince, welcome back. How you doing?
How are you a San Antonio Spurs fan?
Isn't that crazy? So when, for whatever reason, back in 87 and 88, when David Robinson was a rookie coming out of Navy, I don't know why, I was just a huge David Robinson fan. So I just stuck with Robinson, stuck with the Spurs, and then they got Duncan, and then forget about it. Then I was a fan all the way through. Now with with Wemby and everything else, they're kind of getting back, but they obviously they stunk after kind of losing Duncan. But I literally David Robinson fan from 87 and 88.
Do you find as you get older, you're waning off all the sports and like just concentrating on a few, or do you still love the big four?
No, definitely no hockey whatsoever. Basketball less and less, but I was into it this year and last year because the playoffs were exciting because the Knicks were kind of good, and that kind of gets everybody excited in my area. But definitely it's baseball, Yankees, football, Giants, and it used to be every sport, but not anymore.
Isn't that weird, bro? Because the same thing happened to me. The same exact thing happened to me. Like, I'm really just down the baseball, like, to be honest with you, but I used to be all over the big four, bro, but man, over the years, the same thing has happened to me.
Yeah, I don't know why. Just the way it is. I love baseball. I've watched the Yankees, and
I'm the same way.
Religiously watch the Giants for football.
Yeah,
and fantasy football too.
Yeah, bro. Do you know I had a freaking parlay yesterday, bro? You'll appreciate this. I had a parlay. I had the Mariners winning and under 9.5 runs. Bro, it's 3-0 in the bottom of the 8th. I'm home free, bro. I'm home free. 3-0 in the bottom of the 8th, bro. And I lost both ends of the parlay.
Did you see there's an awesome picture? Dominguez struck out in the bottom of the 7th, and they show that the stat line, there being no hit through 7 innings or whatever from that guy Wu, and it's going, and then the next picture is Judge and Volpe going crazy, and they're like, "Oh, Yankees win 6-5." I was like, "That's so great,
unbelievable, unreal, man."
That's it. Down 5-0. They were down 5-0, being no hit in the 8th inning, and boom, they won 6, 5, and 10. That was crazy. Great game.
All right, let's talk Mick Foley. What do we got?
Yeah, let's talk about Mick Foley. One of the all-time greats. To me, maybe the most underrated or underappreciated or maybe under the radar guy of the Attitude Era. He's kind of like the glue guy to me of the Attitude Era in so many ways. Everyone, Steve Austin, Undertaker, Rocca. Foley is the key to all those guys and all their momentum. So thinking about Mick, let's start off with WWF. I just want to mention this first because I just think this is great. When he first was in WWF was all the way back in 1986. So I don't know if people remember this. He was like Jack Foley, and then he's got all these different names, which is just so funny. Nick Foley, they were calling him at one point, but Dynamite Kid, because he's a job guy. Dominic DeNucci brought in him and Shane Douglas, and they're just job guys. Dynamite Kid breaks his jaw. Do you remember this, or did you ever hear about this?
I never heard about this. No.
So it's just a regular TV match. They don't even really give him any respect. He's in generic tights. It's 1986. Dynamite Kid just unloads on him, stiffs the hell out of him, breaks his jaw. Isn't that crazy? Like,
and is that how he got his job? Is that how he got his full-time job?
No. He would hit Japan and the Indies and WCW after this. But that was basically his introduction to the business. Dominic DeNucci kind of trained him. He in good favor. He brings in his guys to be TV job guys, and Dynamite Kid breaks his jaw.
I had never heard that story. Unbelievable, man. Unreal.
And do you think Dynamite Kid apologized? Do you think he cared?
I do not. No, I do not.
No. He said he had a drink. I guess it gets out of a straw. That's how he was eating, or eat out of a straw. Like that's how he gets his, he literally just flat out broke his jaw.
Oh my God. That's brutal, man. That is brutal.
He's a tough guy though. He's not going to say anything.
Oh no. Mick is a tough guy, bro. I don't think people realize how tough Mick is. He is a tough guy. Yes.
if anybody wants to go back, I know WWE has this vault thing that they put on YouTube, where they always put out old matches and guys, like matches you wouldn't think the guys were in. So in '86, he wrestled the Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, Kamala, Hercules. He was in a bunch of matches. That if anybody wants to think like, he made his debut in '96, WWF, no, actually '86.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That is awesome.
So when did you first meet Mick? Like when you first saw him, like what did you think of him?
Yeah, no, bro. I first met Mick in 1991 through Arizzi, John Arizzi. Remember Mick? Mick, he was, I think he was working for WCW, I think, but he was doing all those conventions with John because, you know, they were both from the island and John had known Mick and John was the one who introduced me to Mick. That's when I first met him, bro, like 91.
So were you doing Vince's
yes, Vince's World of Wrestling. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you interview Foley or just met him?
Just met him. It was an Arizzi convention, and that's how I met him. Yeah.
Did you think like this guy is nuts? Like this guy's doing all these crazy bumps, all these crazy spots. He's going to get injured. Like what did you think of him at that point?
Well, I remember, you know, watching him at WCW and stuff. And I mean, he was definitely totally unique. He was definitely totally a character. There was nobody else like him. So he without a shadow of a doubt, stood out to me without a shadow of a doubt.
Here's a crazy thing about Foley in WCW. Once he starts feuding with Sting, I know he did obviously many other things. We're not really going to get into WCW. He did many other things, but once he started feuding with Sting, kind of catapulted him to a main event level and a main event spot where you kind of were like, I kind of could see this guy. He's dangerous. He's big. You know, he does crazy moves and unpredictable. He's a good promo. Shockingly, you know, like he's got a crazy character. He's a good promo. Once he starts feuding with Sting, I feel like not only does he kind of get people taking notice of him, but I feel like that's when he really, really got over.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And bro, you know, when he opened his mouth, I mean, you knew like, my God, this guy can cut a promo and tell a story, and he doesn't sound like a wrestler, and it's not the scripted same promo. You could tell immediately, man.
Another thing, which is really strange about him, I guess, because everybody was so big in that era, and there's so many big guys. He's huge. I mean, you don't really realize it. You know, I'm 6 foot. He's probably 4 inches taller than me at least. Like he's
a big dude, bro. He's a big dude. A lot of people don't realize that. Yeah.
Here is great tidbits from Jim Ross. So Jim Ross, like, loved him from WCW, loved his work ethic. He said this guy is a great locker room guy. That he creates no problems. He like everything is positive about Foley. He tries to get him on Vince's radar. Vince, for some reason, and I just interviewed Mick Foley again last month, if anyone wants to check it on the archive, and he still brought this up, so you could tell this was bothering him. Vince was like, this guy is so ugly. That's what Vince said to Jim Ross. Like, what?
I gotta tell you the complete opposite, bro. When you look back at Mick Foley as a young kid, Mick Foley jumping off his roof.
Yeah. He's not ugly. Yeah.
Mick Foley was a good-looking guy. And, bro, to add to that, he married a beautiful model wife. Like, Mick Foley is a good-looking dude. It was the missing of the teeth, and it was the not shaven.
Yeah.
But go back and look at Mick before anybody knew him. The guy was a good-looking dude.
But I love it. It's, you could tell, because I brought stuff up to Vince. He's like, I can't, or to Mick, and he was like, Vince didn't think I was good looking. He goes, you want to put a mask on me, all this other stuff. And I was like cracking up because you could tell this 30 years later, it's like still annoys him that Vince would be so like rude about it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
And he really isn't, even with all that stuff, he really isn't bad looking at all. Anyway.
No,
I mean,
not at all, bro.
Really,
Vince always had a weird way of looking at things. Like Vince never looked at things or people like a normal person would. I never in a million years would say Mick Foley was an ugly guy, ever.
Right. Like Christian, too. Remember, he was obsessed with how ugly Christian was? It's like,
really? Didn't he want to put something on his face or something?
Yeah, or he needed to wear glasses around him because he's got beady little eyes. Like, he would say all this weird stuff about Christian, too, which is odd. He doesn't look anything, like, abnormal. Looks like a normal Joe Schmo, like a regular guy. Like, it's very, very strange. But also, Jim Ross was, like, really pushing him. So Jim Ross would say any guy that he was really pushing, Vince would purposely
Oh
like
yeah.
want to like destroy, right? Is that like a
Oh
weird
yeah,
thing too? With
bro,
him?
I knew it before you even said it. Absolutely, bro. That's how that's how Vince and Bruce were together. Like they had this weird bond together where it was always them against Jim Ross, them against Jerry Jarrett, them against Cowboy Bill Watts. It was, so that's why I finished your sentence before you even said it, because positively, absolutely, yes.
So when you think about it too, especially because I was a WCW fan, I was like, wow, okay, if they get Cactus Jack or Mick Foley comes over to WWF, I don't know what character he's going to play, but he's great. He's awesome. Jim Ross, this great locker room guy, a good promo, great worker, great wrestler, can wrestle with anybody. You know, he does some crazy stuff, which is unique, and he sets himself apart, and he's different, and he can fit in with his locker, you know, all the positive stuff. Jim Ross says, you know, I'm the head of talent relations. Vince, this is who I want to bring. He goes, fine, I'm going to bring him in, but here's the thing: I'm going to love it when I fire him because you're going to have to fire him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like a really, really rude stuff. Like,
Absolutely believe that 1000%. Absolutely. Yep.
so you kind of have faith in the talent relations guy who might kind of know more than you, which is crazy to say, but Jim Ross might actually know more than Vince about wrestling and talent. And
Yes.
But Vince is almost like, I'm going to prove that you're not telling me to bring in the right guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like almost very vindictive.
Yeah. Yeah. It does not surprise me at all.
So Vince doesn't want him. He agrees to bring him in, but he wants to put him under a mask to cover up that ugly face. So he becomes Mankind. But before he becomes Mankind, he go to creative services, and it was kind of like more of a mask. They have pictures of it and stuff, but they basically wanted to create this thing called Mason the Mutilator and completely cover his face with the mask. Do you remember this at all? Do you remember seeing
that Mason? I do not remember that at all. No.
Jim Ross is so funny, like talking about it. It's like he wants to cover this guy's face. He wants to wear a mask, and like he's not getting it. But for some reason, Vince isn't seeing it. So they do come up with that Mankind match, which covers up some of his face. Kind of a weird gimmick, kind of a weird name, but at least Mick came up with the name. Like they said, Mason. He goes, "Oh, can't I just be Mankind?" Even though that's kind of a weird name and might be kind of out of left field. At least it's better than Mason the Mutilator.
Yeah. I never understood the name. I never understood the mask. I never understood the gimmick. I was working there, bro, and I did not understand any of it. I even remember Vince asked me to write some of his early promos, his real early promos. Yep. I didn't understand the character. What am I writing here? I don't understand the character. I did not understand that character at all.
Very weird. He squealed. He was deranged. He was nuts. He would hide in the boiler room. He had George the Rat. So he was like a thing with a rat. So it was like kind of confusing because it's kind of hokey, but it was also like, okay, this guy's like a serial killer. You know what I mean? It was like a mix between both, like completely insane and hokey.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not understand it, bro. I'm being honest.
What was the boiler room like? And he lived with the rats. What are you supposed to be, the Rat King from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I
have no idea. That was not me, bro. I did not understand it. And like I said, I was working there and I could not get a handle on the character.
Who was kind of head of creative at this point? When
probably Bruce.
So Bruce is kind of spearheading this weird.
I would think. I mean, there was nobody else. Pat was there part time. Bruce was Vince's creative guy. It was probably Bruce.
So the character itself, right? He's Mankind now, and he's got the weird mask, and he's got the the thing on his hand for the mandible claw. He's just a unique look. Like we said, he's hanging out in the basements, all this stuff. Jim Ross kind of doubles down on it and says, not only do they need to change the locker room culture, they need like more talent. They need to start bringing in new guys. Do you agree with both, or do you think that you just really needed talent? The locker room's not that important.
Wait, say that one more time.
Like, is it more important for Foley to come in and be a new talent and be a new guy on TV, or is it just as important to have a locker room guy who's actually like a good mesh guy?
I think both are very important, bro. I really think both are very, very important.
Does he check both? He's definitely a good locker room guy, right? And he checked.
Oh both. God, yeah, bro. Everybody loves Mick Foley. Everybody loved him. Yeah, bro. Absolutely, perfect guy for the locker room. Perfect all around talent, bro. No question.
How was he working with you and doing those promos? And when you actually have to work with him creatively, is he good to work with, collaborate with?
Oh my God, bro! Mick Foley. You don't tell Mick Foley what to do or what to say. Mick Foley is a guy who does his own thing, bro. You tell him what's got to be covered in the promo, but then he basically just does his own thing, man.
So it's a collaboration, but you're not necessarily writing his verbiage. Like, you can produce the segments and stuff, but you're not necessarily writing all of his verbiage.
I'm not writing none of his verbiage. Basically just telling him this is what you need to get across. This is what we need to get over. And Mick just goes.
So were you producing his segments at this point, or neither?
Early Mankind in the
early Mankind. Yeah.
No, I was not producing those. No, I was not. I was writing some of the stuff for him very, very early on. But like I said, I could not get a grasp of his character. When I'm talking about not writing for him and producing him, that would have been later on down the road.
So when Foley really comes in, here was another great point that JR said. He said Undertaker needed fresh opponents who could work. So who was really Mankind's first feud? It's really the Undertaker. Do you agree with that? Do you think Taker needed fresh opponents? Do you think he needed guys that could actually work rather than some of the other guys that he was feuding with that were kind of just like big monsters and like goofy guys, like Giant Gonzalez guys, like guys that couldn't work? Do you think that not only did he need fresh opponents, Undertaker, but he needed guys who could work?
Yeah, because I think it was important to really bring out and showcase what a great worker Taker was. And the only way you're going to bring that out and showcase that is if he's in there with another great worker. And, I can totally understand that psychology.
When he is there, and I got to be honest, and I know some people would say that's crazy, Foley saves Undertaker's career here, to be honest. Undertaker, to me, I know people would say, oh, he's one of the greatest of all time. He was so kind of lame in 95 and 96. He was uninteresting. The character really plateaued. He wasn't really shown to be really a good worker unless he was in there with like a Bret Hart. He just seemed like really boring at this point, Undertaker. Foley, literally, I mean, he breathed new life into him. We saw like a different side of Undertaker. He could work and like brawl like crazy, and it showed like a viciousness. Did you agree with that? He fully kind of saves Undertaker here?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Because like I just said, he was in there with somebody he could work with. So now, Taker could go above and beyond what his character was because he had somebody in there that he could actually work with.
Technically speaking, makes his debut against Aldo Montoya on Superstars in Corpus Christi in a dark match, March 10th, 96. Then the TV debut was the day after WrestleMania 12. For Monday Night Raw, he beat Bob Holly in San Bernardino, California. A short match, like 3 minutes, 20 seconds or so. But really, then he kind of heads up and does the Undertaker feud. And that's really where he gets the ball rolling. And that's really where I think he not only helps Undertaker, but he really kind of cements himself as like, okay, this guy is like an upper mid-card or main event type player. Because, sometimes like they'd bring in Mark Merrow, right? And you kind of don't know where he fits on the thing. Foley felt like when they brought him in, he started feuding with Undertaker. It was like, this is very believable. This guy is going to do some damage. This guy is a star. I remember him as Cactus Jack, but this guy, I think, is going to be a main event player here. Did you agree with that, or what did you think?
Absolutely. And again, bro, you can look at somebody and know they have the it factor. I say this all the time. Hey, bro, John, can you give me 1 second?
Yeah.
Will you be able to edit this?
Yeah. Yep.
Give me 1 second. 1 second.
Yep.